We're doing another Instagram Live today with Juan de Dios Mora. This is his second show with the gallery. I'm going to just pan around first, invite in Juan to join us. Let's see. Morning, everybody. Hey, Juan.
Hey Kevin, how you doing?
I'm good. Good morning. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Hey, no problem. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's the 4th of July today, too. Do you have any plans?
I'm I'm Latino, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna go and celebrate the 4th of July. But then since I live here in the States, of course, I'm gonna go and celebrate, because
Yeah.
I'm Latino too as well.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be closed today. So if you're watching this and you want to see the show, the exhibition is on till July 13th. But the canopy where the gallery is just completely quiet today. Nobody's around, so we're gonna close for the day, and we will be back tomorrow and Saturday, and then the show is on view for regular business hours all next week. So, all right, we will get started. And for those who don't know you, Juan, would you mind maybe just like introducing yourself a little bit, and then we can jump into the show title, which is Los Tremendos. So maybe talk to us about what that is too.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate the invitation and I appreciate you spend a little bit time with us. So my name is Juan de Dios Mora. I'm an artist, printmaker. I do teach classes of printmaking at the University of Texas, San Antonio, UTSA. And so primarily I work with Latino kind of like subject matter and concepts. And my artwork basically focuses or encloses a little bit what is to be living here in the States, but also depicting or providing this type of imagery that my community needs or the way they think as well. So Los Tremendos is a series of works or luchadores that I consider like my little minions, and it's a combination of kind of like a guardian angel and these kind of like attitudes or feelings or expressions or moods. And then the way I combining these two things, the guardian angels and the luchadores, is because when I was a kid, my grandma, mi abuelita, used to tell me all these stories that that I used to have this guardian angel taking care of me all the time. So for me, I feel like I'm trying to get this kind of like an idea of my guardian angels, but also a little bit of mischievous, type of creatures. You want to put it that way, minions. And then so this when you combine those two, you're gonna get los tremendos. And los tremendos is basically this term is like this. It kind of has a little bit of different. I guess I guess translations in English. Los tremendos like a mischievous, like the ones that misbehave. The ones that actually they play around. And then my abuelita used to tell me, "Hey, eres tremendo." Just it's because I used to go and play in the dirt. I used to go and throw rocks at the at the snakes, at the river, because I used to live in a ranch in Mexico. So my abuelita used to tell me, "Hey, mijo, you always have this guardian angel taking care of you." And for me, right now as an adult, because I grew up with the luchadores culture when I was a kid too as well. I feel like I needed to combine the guardian angel and the luchadores together and create my own. We're gonna put it that way, my little guardian angels, or a special idea or a special image to a mood that I feel in a specific moment, in a specific day, and that's the reason why I had this series, Los Tremendos. It's actually, my little minions, so my guardian angels.
Love it. And I want to mention to all the viewers out here, in case you're not familiar with Juan's work too, these are lino cuts. Um, Juan, do you want to talk about that process a little bit, what that means and why you use it?
Yes, linocuts. I've been working since 2007 with linocut. I was introduced at the University of Texas San Antonio. It was kind of like this kind of like a resourceful way to be introduced into the technique. Cause, my professor has like this kind of like a pieces of linoleum just laying around, and I need to finish this project. Then I asked the professor, "Can I have those pieces?" And my professor was like, "Sure, you can have them." And after that, it came the exploration, a little bit the introduction of the media to me. But the black and white imagery comes from all the way when I was a kid. I remember my dad used to take us to the museum in Aguascalientes, the Museo José Guadalupe Posada. And José Guadalupe Posada was one of the pioneers of the kind of like the post-revolution imagery, kind of like a social political imagery. And for me, going to the museum and seeing just the contrast of black and white, such as like Katrina, and all this beautiful work that make a specific movement beautiful, you want to call it that way, but also informational for the mass population. I feel like going to that museum impacted me a lot when I was a kid. Of course, I didn't have that mentor or that type of mentorship, in school, or for me to understand that type of artwork. But for me, going to the museums, it really helped me to understand a little bit the arts. You want to put it that way. So when I came here to the States, I was telling the story of the linoleum. So the first thing I did a little bit of research, and then I come across with Jose Guadalupe Posada, the imagery, and I'm like, in my mind, it kind of took me back in time when I was a kid, and going to the museum, and that gave me the kind of like the need to actually go back and actually practice that art, because I wanted to be in the museum. I wanted to have that beautiful contrast of black and whites. So linoleum is basically this technique where you carve the areas in a specific material. It could be linoleum, it could be wood, it could be any surface. You use a gouge or a knife and you carve out all this area. It's like a little stamps, you want to put it that way. And then there is that you carve is gonna be whites, and there is you kind of remain. You're gonna ink it up, and of course, place the paper on top and print, and that's the way you make a stamp or a print. So multicolor linoleum cards is basically several blocks, and each block has information. So, for example, that one you have in view, that has about 30 to I would say 30 to 40 colors or layers, and then I work in one layer at a time. You've seen a gradation of color. Let's say a light yellow compared to a medium yellow color. It's two layers. I don't do any kind of a blending, anything like that. Everything has to be printed separately, and then and I keep building up layers of ink until you get the result. So basically, it's a really tedious process, but at the end of the day, it's rewarding, and it's something that I really enjoy. It takes a lot of time, I can tell you that, but then, like I say, it's something that I feel like I appreciate myself, because I feel like I'm embracing my culture a little bit that way, but also embracing a little bit when I was a child, going to this museum, and then hopefully, this imagery reflects a little bit the way I think or the way we behave. I think all of us, we can find a connection to that imagery, not just probably in the imagery, but in color, in the subject matter, that somehow it reflects your mood or your feelings, or this type of uh, the way you think sometimes too. So hopefully you see that. And also, one thing that I wanted to say, because of that image and that
This
you
one?
have on the camera right now, it has a little bit of comedy too, and I wanna be playful. That's another thing about being Latino. Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, such a good description of the process. The lino cut process is simple, I think, like as far as like what it means to carve a linoleum block and then turn that into a stamp. But so many people don't realize how difficult it is, and how incredible your work is to be able to make it this many colors. And just to sort of recap, every single one of these colors, the blue, the red, the green, even these grays in the background, that requires you to carve a whole different area so that you can create a stamp just for that one color. It's really mind-boggling. What inspires you to want to make work this complicated?
Um, like I say, my community and the way to represent a little bit the way we behave, the way we think. My family has these values that, of course, we bond, as a family, but then we always have a side of comedy, same. So, a sense of relief or to actually, to be happy. And then I feel like this imagery reflects a little bit that side of me, of course, but also depicting a little bit my community. For example, that one, the Cupid, I call it cupichido. Like it comes from Cupid, and also chido. It means like like a really, kind of like a cool person. So Cupid Chido, it means those two words together, like cool and be awesome. So for me, I wanted to give a specific description sometimes to the way, like I said, the way we behave, but then talking to my family, talking to my friends, sometimes they give me ideas or it makes me think sometimes. And that's the reason why I had those characters, that somehow reflects a little bit the way I am. For example, that one is the koi fish. It's called coquetando, like koi from the koi fish, and coqueteando it means like flirting, a little bit. So I trying to put two words together that somehow signifies one for koi, fish, koi, and flirting, coquetear. So I feel like it somehow, that speaks a little bit the moment that I was actually, doing the drawing first, or the way the emotional feeling of that specific moment. So that's the reason why I try to bring this imagery to depict myself, but also I wanted to for everyone to embrace it in a way that it defines something different. I'm fine with that, but I feel like I had to give back, the way I think. Sometimes we think alike in some things, and sometimes it's hard for us to describe certain way of feeling or the way we feel or feelings. And I feel like this imagery, hopefully, it reflects a little bit that side, or it actually gives a character the mood or feeling that we actually, that we're thinking about in that specific moment.
You talk about like character development and getting these ideas across, but I just find it so amazing that yes, of course you do that very effectively, but you could potentially do that with just black and white. You give us so much. You give like there's so much extra work here that without being there and watching you do this process live, I think it'd be difficult to understand just how much time and energy and like your sketching process must be so intense to figure out how to separate the colors and how to plan to do this because there's so much planning involved. um, like all these little marks to get the muscle definition, the hands, the contours. It's completely mind-boggling to me. I mean, it's such incredible work. Um, what does your sketching process look like?
My sketching, well, thank you so much for that question. So, of course, you start with the sketching, but color, we can talk about color a little bit. So, the sketching for me, the way it start, of course, I think about idea. For example, that one is a wrestler. So, the whole series is wrestlers, and that one is the Rayo de Jalisco. It was this kind of like a really popular wrestler in Mexico during the uh, late 80s, early 90s. And Rayo de Jalisco, he was from Guadalajara. I'm from Guadalajara. So this character has a little bit that kind of connection with me. And then, of course, I have a calavera referencing to the Jose Guadalupe Posada, Las Calaveras. And I feel like the Calaveras really, it really embraces the Latino culture a little bit more. So my sketching, basically, the way I do them is basically I sit down and sometimes I take notes to myself in a napkin or my sketchbook, and later I come back to my house or whatever. Sometimes I'm even joining the restaurant. So and whatever I feel, whatever I see sometimes, and I combine different things, my feelings, the setting, and a little bit the my surroundings. That has to do with my the settings. But then for me, once I get all these things together, I come back to my house and I start playing around with the sketching. So one of the things that I wanted to do on this series for me is to actually, have the wrestler and then some kind of like a movement. Some of them they have movement. Some of them they have like some kind of like a tires or vehicles. And for me,
Hmm.
vehicles it means this form of transportation because I've been living in a nomad life, and I feel like a transportation of the vehicles represents that side of me. So moved from Mexico, from a small town to a metropolitan, city, and from Mexico here to the States. And the States, I've been moving around a little bit. I feel like the way for me to represent that transportational movement is actually, through the vehicle, the tires, and some kind of like kinetics in my artwork. So that, when I think all these things, I had to respect myself a little bit. So the way, my style or the approach, because that when I think about my sketching, I had to, I like that. If not, I don't feel pleased, with my sketch. It sometimes it kind of had like this kind of like a aesthetic, kind of like poses, something like that. I tried to put it to the side. I leave the sketch there, but I tried to go back and kind of have like some kind of movement. For example, the background in that one, and for me, that form it really says a lot in my artwork. And then after that, you go into color, the hand movement, the expression, all these things, I have to think about when I'm drawing this. And of course, you see the boot. For me, the boot, shows a little bit the Latino side, the working class, and but also, like how you entertain, your little kids, when you say peekaboo, right? So in front of the boot, you see like this thing popping out. And for me, thinking about these things, like that's my little minion. You want to play it that way when you're not entertain your little kid. So and that's the reason why I'm trying to do these sketches to represent that specific mood. I draw the sketch, and then after that, it goes into production. Transferring to linoleum, carving, making the line, all this tedious process that really represents the imagery. But then one thing is to do the black and white, another thing is to do the color one. The color one is actually that's the most challenging part of the process. But the color, and then also the building the layers. The building layers kind of gives this kind of like a gloss finish, and I really love that. That's the reason why I do linoleum, because it kind of represents that. And I feel like the process from sketching all the way to the finished product, it has to be connected. It has to be one. And for me, I always enjoy every single little part, although it has some challenges. And probably, if you ask any artist, probably the challenges that we don't like to say that we love them. But at the end of the day, we love them because of that's the reason why we have these results, which is the artwork.
Yeah, it's worth it. I'm so glad that you brought up the backgrounds. I mean, I'm looking closely at these one at a time so that people can see, what the images are and the detail and everything. But I'm just going to pan around quickly one more time so you can all see
Hmm.
just how every background is so different than each other. So you're creating these characters, but you're also so thoughtful about the backgrounds. It goes a long way. Pretty amazing. Could we go around and I love your stories about what each piece means and how you kind of came to that, idea. Let's do a few of them. Could you talk to me about this one?
Yes, that's an alligator. And the alligator for me in Laredo, because when I came here to United States, because I'm from Mexico, Laredo is a border town to Nuevo Laredo, and of course the river, divides both countries, and both cities, Nuevo Laredo and Laredo, and the river. There was a time when the border patrol came with the stories, and actually there was alligators there. They came with this, the idea that there was alligators, so that story started to spread among the community. And I live in a neighborhood where where you can see a lot of people passing by, and a lot of these people sometimes they ask you for help, and they were kind of immigrants. And then they used to tell me, hey Juan, because after a while, we kind of become a little bit familiar or acquainted, because some of them they come here to the United States to work, and some of them came here, for other reasons. But they used to tell me that they were afraid to. Sometimes they hear stories in Nuevo Laredo that the river was infested with alligators. And for me, it started to get the idea. Oh my God, I need to do this alligator wrestler, with wheels representing, that sense of movement. I was like I said, but this kind of like an alligator, like a creature, like a menacing creature. You see in the background, you see a little bit the sunset. Underneath, you see the water and the Rio Grande or the Rio Bravo. It has like this kind of murky, kind of like a greenish water. So for me, doing the alligator represents the idea that there were alligators in the river, but also that idea used to scare a lot of people from doing the crossing. But only lasted a couple of hours. I would say a couple of days, because after that, everything went back to normal. but that alligator, it comes from that story.
Nice. Thank you. And we'll just move on. I know I've heard the story about this one. I love the story about this one.
Florencia y
So let's do
Cachucha.
that next. Okay, let's do this one next, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Is that okay?
Florencio y Cachuchas. In Mexico, I used to work in the fields with my parents. And for me, cachucha is basically like a cap. And Florencios means it's a really popular name in Spain, but also in Mexico. But then Florencio, it means flower too. So what I try to do is combine flowers and and caps together, represent a little bit the me working in the fields. And you're gonna see in the background this beautiful pattern, like kind of like a floral, kind of like a uh, really beautiful organic patterns. So for me, that takes me back to a little bit when I used to work in the fields, and I had those too because that represents a little bit not just my community but my parents. Because and then on top, you see right in the middle, you see like a sunflower, petals. For me, that follows the sun. Because in Mexico, after some time, my dad used to migrate to the United States, come here and work, and for me, the following the sun or the sunflower, that's the reason why I had the petals there. I feel like it was my connection with my dad through the sun.
Wow.
And then I feel like I was the sunflower following the sun, and the sun follow my dad. So for me, having this type of characters, and I want to say meanings, but some of them it has like some kind of like a personal meaning. But that was my connection with my dad, and I used a lot of wood because in Mexico we used to, for example, the little hands on the sides of the character, like little arms. Those it's wood for me. Wood. I remember when I was a kid, we used to play with pieces of wood, but also we use it for to cook, to actually for fire. And my mom used to do that all the time. We were kind of like a little bit behind, when it comes to the living, I guess commodities. And I feel like my mom, when she used to cook with wood, everything actually has a different flavor. It was
Hmm.
good. That's the reason why I use wood to represent the nature, but representing my upbringing and all these things. So Florencio is the cap, the um, cachuchas is the cap on top, and Florencio is the character right underneath. The representation of this working community in Mexico, but more my parents.
Nice.
Mhm.
And we will thinking about, do I want to do one more or do I want to? I've always been, you talk about the sense of movement, adding the wheels. I'm familiar with your previous series called Los Locos Divisos. Do you feel like that's part of the reason why you're adding these wheels? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about that series of work? This is an older series of work, but is that what you're thinking with some of these like mismatched wheels too?
Yes, I think the Locus device is the series. I think it's actually a progression of things. So when you think about it, tires, right? It represents movement. But then in Mexico, I think tires is actually in our lives most of the time. So I remember playing in the playground with tires. We used to like get into the swings, get into tires. My dad used to have our own tractor in Mexico. I remember used to get into that wheel. My dad used to kind of turn the tractor. It was a huge wheel. I used to like kind of like
Oh wow.
hang from one side, and my dad like, "What are you doing?" But it was fun. For me, tires it has that representation. But then tires also, when I came to the United States in the early 2000s, there was a lot of shows about choppers. And then me having, me being introduced to that, I feel like it kind of like reinforced the idea that tires, it was something needed in me, as a part of a visual language. And then, of course, then I added movement. So tires for me is so important, of course, shows movement. If you push a little bit, you're gonna have that, you're gonna move a little bit. And for me, that shows a little bit the sometimes, you want to stay still, you can stay still, but at the end of the day, if you move a little bit forward, you're gonna move like a tire. You're always gonna be in constant movement because tires, like a square tire, probably never gonna move. And for me, represented the tires, like I said, represents movement, but also it means, always moving forward, with the idea, with the concepts. And that's the reason why I had those tires, there to represent a little bit my that personality of me, always trying to be productive, move forward, be embracing new things, be looking forward, moving forward. That's what it means. Yeah.
Nice. You know, I want to say something too about this exhibition that I don't usually say. But there's 30 pieces in the show. They're all framed by Juan. They're amazingly framed. Juan is a very good framer as well. Craft is clearly important to him, but unframed, these are $400 each. I don't usually do this on live. I don't usually even say this to people in person or, really try to push things like this, but these are insanely reasonably priced, and they look amazing together. I just want to put that out there to you all watching this. Like, Juan's work is incredible, and I just think they're so reasonably priced, and they're just. I want many of them, and I'll probably collect many of them myself. Um, Juan, is there anything else that you feel like you'd like to mention about this exhibition before we say goodbye?
Yes, I want to thank you. I want to thank Josiah, which is right here in the live.
Yeah, hi,
Eden,
guys.
how you doing, Eden? So I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to thank you, Kevin, for giving this opportunity, and hopefully let's keep working together. And the show is just amazing. I feel like he's working right now in Laredo. Just Josiah, I feel like he's a master on his craft. And beautiful show. If you had a chance, guys, go and check it out. No, don't do it for me. Do it for Josiah's. But I think just set a meeting with Kevin and just go and check the show. It's a beautiful way to support the artists. Go and check your local gallery. So if you travel, go to Austin, go and check out the show. It's a beautiful show.
It's so worth it. I mean, you were talking about some of the gloss on this on these prints too, and how that's important to you. Like the ink itself has a gloss. I can't show that on these lives. I can't. I'm trying to get as close as possible, but this work needs to be seen in person. So if you are around, you have a week and a few days left. We're closed again today, but we'll be open tomorrow, which is Friday, from 10 to 5. We'll be open Saturday, 10 to 5, and then we'll be open all next week, Tuesday through Saturday. So if you haven't seen the show yet, please come by. And it's summer in Austin, so you'll be mostly alone in the gallery. It's nice and quiet around here. It's too hot for people, but it's a must-see. Juan, thank you so much. I love talking about your work. I love your work so much. I feel lucky to show it. So thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.